My name is Ashley Went, and I am a student at Southern Illinois University in Edwardsville. I'm going to discuss the models of macro change, which include locality development, social planning, and social action. First, we have locality development, which our notes explain is creating infrastructure aimed at impacting community-wide issues. Our notes also explain that within locality development, communities use existing capital to increase community capital, which involve human, financial, social, and physical. The article that I found relates to locality development is called Expanded Telehealth, which has provided a boost for rural community. Will it last? Relaxed restrictions on virtual care have helped rural providers continue serving patients, and advocates hope that changes remain long term. The article discusses how expanded telehealth services in rural communities have made a major difference. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, many providers have opted to use telehealth services to ensure individuals are still getting access to the care they need. The article discusses that the hopes that many providers will continue to use telehealth services beyond the pandemic, so access to care in rural communities remain an option. The article states that it is often difficult for individuals to get to doctor's visits, for example, but using telehealth services have eliminated some of the issues as to why it is difficult for those living in those communities to follow through with their appointments. This is related to locality development because it is aimed at addressing an ongoing issue within many communities, which is access to healthcare or really any type of services necessary. An example of human capital from this article could include the healthcare providers. As COVID-19 made the world change how things are done very quickly, providers had to quickly find a way to still serve their communities and those within them. For financial capital, individuals still have to provide payment for telehealth services. This may be different than in-person visits. However, if service providers are choosing to continue telehealth services after the pandemic, the financial aspect may change. Social capital includes the relationships between providers and individuals requesting services. This could include positive relationships with these providers because the individuals are more likely to follow through with appointments and receive the help they need. Additional social capital could be viewed as the relationships between the individuals within the same community who are utilizing the same type of services. For physical capital, I believe that telehealth services could take the place of a physical building in rural communities. We know that these providers are scarce in rural communities, so the option for telehealth could act as a physical capital. The image shown is from the article and shows a road in a rural community. I think it is important to note how many barriers there are for individuals accessing healthcare. Oftentimes, there are not providers in their community, so traveling to providers may be difficult, especially if individuals don't have access to transportation. Okay, next is social planning. Our notes explain that social planning is using problem-solving strategies that are aimed at combating community problems. This can include passing laws or regulations that address these problems. The people involved in social planning includes people from the community, people in power, and or experts. The article that I found that relates to social planning is called Crow Creates Task Force to Study Prevent Child Abuse in Illinois and is from June 2nd, 2021. The article explains that Senator Crow plans on creating a task force that will review and address discrepancies in laws regarding physical and sexual abuse with children. The task force will work to assess and make recommendations regarding the Sexual Assault Survivors Emergency Treatment Act to address the medical response concerns to child abuse. Additionally, the Child Advocacy Center in Madison County will partner with this task force to study the current law regarding pediatrics and ensure medical and developmental needs are met. This relates to social planning because this task force is attempting to address problems within how child abuse cases are handled. The task force is looking at certain acts or laws to address discrepancies to plan for change regarding this subject. The image shown is Senator Crow from the website Illinois Senate Democrats as she addresses the plan for the task force. Finally, we have social action, which our notes describe as the ability of people to change the power structure or function of social institutions. Social action typically exists when there are situations where those in power do not want to correct inequity, which can then lead to rioting or protest as people are trying to make changes within the community. The article that I found to social action is titled St. Louis Activist Hopeful but Bracing for Verdict in Derek Chauvin's Trial and is from April 2021. The article explains the murder of George Floyd after police officer Chauvin kneeled on Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes. Chauvin is charged with second-degree unintentional murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. It goes on to explain that if Chauvin is found not guilty, it would again show that police officers are not held accountable for their actions, which could result in protests from activists trying to stop police brutality. This relates to social action because activists are attempting to change the power structure of police officers when something tragic like this happens. Activists and protesters are wanting police officers who are in a position of power held accountable. The image that is shown is from the news article I found. The article explains that the image itself is from May 29, 2020, as activists in St. Louis are protesting the death of George Floyd. And finally are the references from the news articles that I had found and included in this slideshow.